So I'm not going to take anything away from the fin keel Spade Rudder yacht. Well, except their viability for making ocean passages. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, I need to address the age-old debate of which hull design is good for ocean voyaging. Full keel or fin keel? That is since the invention of the fin keel, or I should say since the more modern revived version of the fin keel resurfaced in the mid-60s. Because let's not forget that at one time there were no fin keels, and that wasn't that long ago. But there were some early fin keel developments on some rather pretty boats actually in the late 1800s. But the design never caught on and wasn't revived until the mid-60s when designer Bill Lapworth designed the Cal 40 and the fin keel became popular for ocean racing. And the operative term here is racing. They still aren't popular for cruising oceans, and for good reasons. Although increasingly, more yacht builders are building what they're calling purpose-built ocean-going yachts with fin keels and spade rudders, even with dual spade rudders. Builders like Hallberg Rossi and Amel that in the past would have never even considered a fin keel spade rudder in offshore boat now use these designs for ocean voyagers. So I'm not going to take anything away from the fin keel spade rudder yacht. Well, except their viability for making ocean passages. But they do have their place in the sailing world, and there's no denying that. They're fun for going around the buoys, and they're a good choice for coastal and even light offshore sailing, like maybe in the Caribbean. They're usually faster, more maneuverable, and can sail closer to the wind while making less leeway. These attributes can make them a better option for close destination sailing where there might be a lot of shoals, headlands, or winds might be more finicky or often light like in the Chesapeake Bay, or you want to make up a little time in light airs as the fin keels are generally not heavy displacement yachts and sail better in light wind. But for ocean voyaging, I don't think they're a good choice at all, and I don't recommend anyone buy one with the purpose of crossing oceans in mind. So first, let's take a look at what makes a full keel yacht or a long keel yacht with a skeg-hung rudder a better, safer choice for ocean voyaging. First, we're talking about boats specifically designed and intended for crossing oceans here. Boats with varying designs and with some varying, if not adamant, opinions. However, the opinions expressed here will be mine, but of course, they're corroborated by many because I'm not alone in my opinions about full keel yachts, but they're also argued by many as well. This is a design and its variations that I feel are the best suited for making ocean passages. The full keel and the three types of keels within this design group. Let's start with the full keel sailboat. A true full keel boat is where the keel starts just forward of the rudder and continues along the bottom of the boat all the way through to the waterline at the bow, having a deep underwater section all the way forward, curving upwards as it moves forward to the point of where the waterline intersects with the stem. The main sailing attribute to the full keel boat is it tracks very well, making a good rum line towards the destination. The bow won't get blown off to leeward as easily because of the keel reaching all the way from the stem to the stern, creating that resistance to the bow being blown off. They can also, however, make more leeway than a deep fin keel. The second is a cutaway forefoot. In this example, a portion of the leading or forward section of the keel is cut away or removed, and the forward upward curve of the keel is further aft on the hull and leads to the hull aft of where the water line and the bow meet. This design came about when designers were looking for a faster, more maneuverable boat by reducing the wetted surface area and loosening that forward section of the boat by eliminating that deeper forward section of the keel. The sailing attribute of this type of keel is basically the same as the full keel. It tracks very well, they have a little less leeway, and they may be a bit faster than the full keel. Another type of full keel sailboat is what is called a modified full keel, where the aft end of the keel has a cutaway or a bite out of it just forward of the skeg. This design is technically a fin keel with a skeg-hung rudder, but I wanted to highlight this keel type in this section because many will often consider this type of keel very similar to a full keel boat because of its performance and handling characteristics, both under sail and in the marina, as well as the protective aspect of the rudder. They will still track very well as a full keel boat does, point a bit higher than a full keel boat will, but still not point as high as a modern deep fin keel boat. They're slightly more maneuverable than either of the other types of full keel boats, especially going astern and in the marina at low speeds. They'll have better windward performance and often less leeway. They also have a cutaway forefoot, which not only helps with maneuverability and windward performance, but speed again, as they have less wetted surface area. These keel types and corresponding hull designs in most cases lead to much more comfortable sailing yachts because often, especially with older boats, these designs are more narrow, reducing flatter sections of the hull under the waterline or designed with deeper drafts to compensate for some of the more modern, beamier designs. Heading to a softer turn of the bilge, helping alleviate the flatter sections. They also have a protected rudder. The rudder is also protected from striking a reef should you find yourself in that situation. Maybe dragging anchor onto a reef or hitting a bommy in a poorly charted area of an atoll. And a full keel can also protect against getting wrapped in lines, nets, or pots. They are generally more sea-kindly, meaning they have a more gentle motion in a seaway because of the aforementioned designed attributes. And this more sea-kindly motion, of course, leads to less fatigue. And any of you that are familiar with this channel or the manual I'm writing know how important I feel eliminating fatigue on a cruising boat is to the safety of the skipper, the crew, and the boat. And although a beamy yacht generally has a better riding moment than a more narrow boat, which can make a narrower beamed yacht more tender, meaning it can heel more with less force, a narrower yacht has a much better angle of vanishing stability, meaning it is in a less stable position when it's upside down. These are important terms if you're looking for a yacht and would be beneficial to learn and understand. The rudimentary definitions are these. Riding moment is the force that tends to bring a yacht back to its upright position from a heeling position imposed by an external force, the wind. So in other words, when a yacht is being heeled by the force of the wind on the sail, this is the wind, this is the keel tends to keep the yacht in more of an upright position. Point of vanishing stability is the point at which, when a yacht is heeling, it becomes more stable upside down. Sail, keel. As the wind is forcing the yacht to heel, at one point the yacht is happier to do this and turn upside down. And the narrow, less beamy yachts like to stay upright more than the beamier yachts. So let's talk about the negative side of full keel designed yachts. They're slower and they make a bit more leeway. And that's basically it. The fin-keeled yachts generally have more room below decks, but as we're going to see, that's not necessarily a good thing. So let's dive in and see just what it is about the fin keel that relegates it to coastal cruising and racing for me. Because I would not go to sea in a full keel sailboat with the Spade Rudder, which just hangs in the wind behind the keel with no protection forward of it. That's insane. It's an insane gamble. You can win every time for 50 years, but if you lose once, well, the stakes are really high. The danger is not only from losing the rudder in an accident and therefore steerage of the yacht, which is a possibility in itself. The danger is in the rudder being broken at the point where the rudder post passes through the hull, or worse, where the aft top edge of the rudder, which is sharp in most cases, is pushed aft and up by the striking of an object. This can create a can opener effect as that top sharp aft edge of the rudder pierces the hull behind the rudder post, opening up an enormous crease, which cannot be repaired at sea easily, if at all. This is a real danger, and one that actually happens. I've seen real life examples of it. The other side of these keel types is they are often conjoined in the design of a yacht that is more beamy. The more beamy the yacht, the more apt they are to have flat spots in the hull shape that are under the waterline. As the boat pitches, these flat spots do not provide a soft entry, but instead create a scenario where the yacht, upon re-entering the water when pitching, is abruptly stopped when the flat spot hits the water. This creates a jerky pounding that is extremely uncomfortable and fatiguing, both physically and mentally, as the sound from the pounding can be very alarming and the sudden stop very jarring. Again, to me, the most important aspect of safety in an ocean voyaging yacht is comfort that prevents fatigue. So one can easily see why, in my opinion, the more beamy, fin keel, spade rudder yacht is not ideal for the safest choice for an ocean voyaging yacht. Okay, so back to the more room below decks on the beamy or fin keel yachts. The beamy ratio of these newer fin keel yachts has a lot of appeal to people because of the extra room afforded by the extra beam. And this is why I say I can't take anything away from the fin keel designs. They have their place. With big, wide open spaces, often ballrooms, it's quite appealing to people over the more narrow designs of the deep-keeled yachts, and especially the older ones with tighter quarters below. But this usually comes with a price or two. One is storage. Yeah, they're open and spacious, but the room, the space, extends all the way out athwart ships to the hull many times, leaving no room for cabinetry behind the settees against the hull. As well, the space under the settees is often tankage, as the bilges are very shallow with no room for water or fuel tanks. So the tankage ends up in the settees. But this is important storage space for a voyaging yacht. Space that can't be forsaken, but it's great for the coastal cruiser that doesn't sail far between provisioning opportunities. As well, there's plenty of room below for family and partying. The other thing about these wide open spaces below is there's often big distances between handholds and places to lean. I mean, I don't think that's a good thing for coastal cruising either. It's a huge safety issue. Just because one is coastal cruising doesn't mean they're not going to run into a seaway. In fact, shallow coastal waters often have very choppy, short, steep seas that are tough to keep your balance in, and without good handholds and places to prop oneself up and long distances between these areas to hold on to or prop oneself up, below decks can become a dangerous place. So that warning is out there. Be careful on a yacht that isn't specifically designed for safe ocean voyaging, because these are actually the kinds of things that are meant when we talk about a yacht being designed for ocean passages. And these days, many yachts are designed to look good and have an appealing appearance that can fool people into thinking the boat they're looking at is amazing, when really it might just be amazing to look at and party in. But there's still one more assumed point people will argue, that the extra speed a fin keel spade rudder yacht sometimes offers is safer because it enables you to outrun a storm. But I assure you, that scenario is not only unlikely, but to me it's an absurd gamble. Why buy a yacht that might, by some highly improbable chance, be able to outrun a storm, when you can buy a yacht that will sail more safely through that same storm? Because storms are out there. You can't avoid them all your sailing life, no matter what you do or what kind of boat you sail. Period. You will end up in a storm at some point in your sailing career. Plus, storms can travel at speeds from like 12 miles an hour to up to 50 miles an hour. And few thin keel sailboats can outrun a 12 mile per hour storm, let alone a 40 or 50 mile per hour storm. Even sailing perpendicular to it, which might afford you some relief from the storm, but let's look at that idea. Let's say your thin keel Spade Rudder yacht can sail 2 knots faster than my full keel yacht. So over 24 hours, you're going to be only 48 nautical miles further away from that storm than I am. And true, that may be a better position to be in. But how many times do you think you're going to get that lucky before you end up having to sail through a storm? I can answer that. Probably never. Maybe once. There's no saying speed can't help, because it can certainly get you to your destination faster, meaning you spend less time at sea, but it's just an absolutely absurd gamble to buy with that premise in mind, when there's a much better and safer option available. My suggestion, if cruising is what you're looking to do, is to buy a better sailing, more comfortable, safer yacht, prepare it to the best of your ability, and sleep better off watch, knowing your yacht will look after you and your crew. Again, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please head on over to sunlovesailing.com, where you can check out my consultation services for preparing a yacht for ocean voyaging, and my manual also about how to prepare a yacht for ocean voyaging. Really appreciate it. See you next time.